They asked me to talk about CSV. I also did it in the Dutch Pro workshop, and I will probably also do that in the next YAPC. CSV looks kind of boring. When you get into it, people say, I'll write a parser in Perl, it's just split and comma. Yes, and when the fields have commas in them, yeah, I'll deal with that later. Yeah, and then quoting and escaping, embedded new lines, Unicode, whatever. It gets complicated rather fast. And I took over this module years ago, and it was already object-oriented. People who know me more than today know that I don't like object-oriented programming, but it was like that, and it was fast. And I visited Perl monks after I took over to see what problems people experienced with my modules. Not only CSV, but all my modules. And CSV was big. Problem here, problem there. So one of the things I did was gather all the problems, fix the real bugs, and then implement new features until all the real annoying stuff was gone. And lately on Perl monks there is a girl, and she said, my problem is that it doesn't open the files for me. How hard can that be in Perl? It's a simple one-liner.
Was this lady Alina?
Yep.
Who else?
And when you look at our code, you want to say, if that's your biggest problem, how many do you create in your own code? Because some parts are written like that can be in 2 lines, but that's not my problem. So at one point she said, I might use it if it becomes a one-liner. And that made me think. And feedback from that lady over there wants me to tell me right now that I want to take you on a journey of my mind. How I came to where I got and why I did this. I want to be CSV as simple as possible for the end user. CSV is not simple at all. CSV parsing, object-oriented, is open the file. Well, if this is the problem of Lady Alina, you can teach her, but she's not going to learn. You have to create an object with a new, and everybody you have to tell, you have to pass binary, and please use autodiac, which is now 2-3 years in there already. Binary because you want to enable new lines and Unicode and whatever. And autodiac, if it fails, it will show you what fails and what you can do with it. And then you go over the file handle, line by line. Why getLine and not while the diamond operator? Because it can have embedded new lines and then it will fail, but because it might be quoted or not. CSV writing, almost the same. You open a file for writing. You might use encoding, you prepare an object, also with the binary, but you have to tell it an end of line. Why do you have to tell it what end of line it uses to write and not with read? Because read is free to interpret any valid line ending as valid. So you can have a CSV file with mixed new lines, carries return new lines, or carries return only, and all those lines will be valid if you do not pass an end of line. So it will be Winnish. First, I did here a database dump. I prepare, select star from the foo. I execute it, and for each row that I get with a fetch row array, I print it done. So simple can it be for people who use Perl more than once a week.
Is the web scale?
There is.
Web scale. It is web scale.
Yeah.
Oh, only if it has a snazzy logo or a cool name. That is the rule.
That's a snazzy logo. Look at the top left, top right.
No, that's his. That's his. That's not the CSV thing. It needs a snazzy logo and a cool weird name.
Text CSV needs a logo and a name?
Yes.
If you want it to be web scale.
If it wants to be web scale.
Yeah.
So, went over its
Yep.
head.
But this brain hurts.
I mean, sometimes the bears were skilled.
It's funny. Trust us.
Okay. Attributes. There's so many things to think of. Someone mentioned Microsoft just a minute ago because they do not always use the comma. In Holland, they use the semicolon. Why? Because what Microsoft uses is the list separator from the current locale. So if you have your locale set to Dutch, the list separator is a semicolon. And if you go to the PC next to that, which has set it to English, it won't read the file.
Is that because of money?
What else?
That's because of bad decisions.
Yeah,
It-
but
it's not because
this
they say what
is
if there's
also a
money
bad
in the-
decision. But that is, and mind you, that the default escape character for CSV is also double quote. And mind you that Microsoft was one of the big companies that created the CSV. They were
Finish your sentence first.
they were one of the inventors of CSV. They did it together with 3 or 4 others.
Oftentimes in Microsoft, the default is like a tab separated file.
Tabs is never default unless you have the list separator in your locale setting to top, which many people do because it is easy to export as text.
Or you have the setting in Excel.
And even if I even like that in Microsoft is that you can set your locale to Dutch, but then change your numeric format to use a dot so you can import American numerics. But you can I have played a lot with the locale settings on Windows when I still had Windows. I don't like the comma dot in American. So the triad separator, like if you have a big number, you can use 1, 2, 3, comma 4, 5, 6, comma dot 0, 0. Yeah, I don't like the commas. I'd like a space. Do that on Microsoft. It's fun. You can even use longer strings. More fun is use a 1. What? If you export all the number strings. Those are the stupid things that Microsoft allows. Yes? Okay, the escapes is character, the default escape character in CSV is also a double quote. That means if you have a double quote inside a double quote field, it means double quote 1, 2, 3, 4, double quote, because the first is the escaped character, the second is the quote you want to escape, and then the rest in the double quote. So, reads kind of funny. End of line. If you don't specify it, it will be automatically, and it allows all those 3. Autodidact will be 0, and it will be 1 when you use autodie. It's all kind of settings that there is a lot of documentation, and you can read through those. But this one is really not worth talking about. So the 2 wrongs, in my opinion, are those 2, and those are still 0 because of backward compatibility issues. When I took over those module, this one was 0, so I couldn't change it. When I implemented Unicode, I made it a bit better because it now automatically detects that it's valid Unicode and accepts it even if binary is 0. So that's a bit nicer to the end users. Autodidact is still 0, but I always want it on. But if you want speed, and don't care about the error messages and you catch them, you don't want your log files to fill up with messages, so you skip them too. So, what I needed was a simple function which does everything Lady Alina wants, and I want, and I think still has magic, but also logical magic. So, the Dwimish level should be very high. So, object-oriented. What I want to skip? This. I don't want to do that. It's a new function, it's something completely new, so I can now set the same defaults. So I want these gone and make those 2 default. Same here. If I write defaults carries you to a new line. No questions asked. Of course you can overrule, but this is what I want. So, skip those. This is how I think it should change without having the backward compatibility issues. So, I had a big discussion on Perl. How should I call this function? CSV to list, CSV to array, do something with CSV, CSV magic. In the end I decided, why not call it CSV?
Was nog tipping here?
No, you import it from the module.
Okay.
So you use the module, it's optional, so you don't get it by default, because people might already have, like Lady Alina, have written a function called CSV. If you now import it, you get this function for free. It will open the file for you if you say the file is that. So it will also open it for you. It will create the object for you internally. It will do the while loop internally and return you an array of arrays. So the whole thing that you end up with is one single reference from a function. And you don't have to deal with cleanup stuff and all. It opens the file, and when it's done, it closes the file. File can be almost anything. It can be a file name, or you can also put in here. I want input from. It can be a file name. It can be a file handle. It can be a glob. It can be a reference to a glob. It can be a reference to a scalar. And there's a few bugs in there. People started to use it once I released it. And whoever used CGI? No, you don't have to be brave, just raise your hand. You have, or ever used CGI : FH, which is the file handle inside GC. So if you download something from the web using CGI, you get it in a file handle. But the file handle doesn't have a getLine method. So you can almost do nothing with it. It just is a handle and you can read from it. That's all. Stupid. But it will be fixed because CGI has a new maintainer. So you can get back.
It gets deprecated.
For writing, I just want to do the same. Skip all that and just say out is test.csv and in is. And don't know if I can scroll down more. Who uses DBI? In any form, most of you do. MySQL, whatever. This is straight from the database handle from DBI. Select all array ref, select star from foo, and you can pass that to in, because in, as I said, also accepts an array reference. And then you have out and test. So this is the dump of a complete table.
I just wonder how performance-wise or how other users you can have, because if you're doing that with a huge table.
Yeah, I thought of that from the beginning. This is for end users. That means that if the file is huge and it won't fit into memory, this won't fit into memory. End of story.
Okay.
It's not a streaming thing.
Okay.
But I come back to that.
Anything you think of, he'll get to it later in the slides.
Can get better.
But it is a limit, yes.
Later.
If you do anything in a black box, the black box can be filled. So, use text CSV. CSV is file test. I get an array of arrays, and I can go over the arrays and put something out of it. I can also get a list of hashes, an array of hashes. When I say I have the headers auto, it will read the first line of the CSV file, or stream, or whatever, parse the fields saying those are the headers of my CSV file, and then use them for each record to make a hash ref with all the values pointed to by the headers. So you get an array of hashes. And you can go over them and say with the arrow. Writing, same thing, out is text CSV, in is that. But you can also combine them, because CSV returns an array of hashes or an array of arrays, you can pass that to the in argument. So you can have an old CSV, which might have different line endings or whatever, and inconsistent quoting or whatever, still valid. You write it to CSV and it will be completely standard. What you can also do is convert those stupid Microsoft semicolon separated files, because you read the file with a semicolon and you write the file default.
So, as you said that in is the same thing as file. Is it?
Yeah. File is an alias.
So can you just say that in is the old CSV? You need to specify a new CSV.
No. Yeah.
I mean, in is the CSV and the out.
Yes.
The out
And
CSV.
it will work, but it will do nothing. What you want to do is pass different options to this call within those parents and say the in is separation character, but you can also put the separation character attribute to the other call. So you can also swap them around.
Does it, well, probably,
You can put, after this, you can put here, comma, sep, char, arrow, new line.
can you order of the headers as well if you're giving a array of hashes?
Instead of auto,
No, I mean,
When
there.
writing.
yes,
Yeah, right.
of course you can.
When I'm writing it, okay?
Yes, I'll come to that later.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
CSV.
something different in between. Who has heard of RC 7111?
Because of you, yes.
What I want to tell you now, to make your night bed, is that I'm also talking to these guys. This person, and two other persons. They are working on a new RFC, CSV for the web. And what they are implementing is metadata, reference structures, checkers, all kinds of stuff.
CSV blame?
Maybe, but it's a layer of 3 files: the data, which is plain CSV, the metadata in what should it be, and an optional checker. So you can take the metadata and check if the third field is in between a range, or is matching only numbers, or only matching positive numbers. There's a whole
Something for
thing.
search, for example, for like a search engine or something, just check the
Yeah, or for
metadata.
making. Not all CSV has the same content on every line. Some have summaries on the first line and then dig down, and they also want to support that. Worse, which made me really, why would you do that? Who knows about BD?
Oh,
BBIs?
bidirectional?
Bidirectional Unicode.
Yeah.
CSV files can be bidirectional Unicode, but is it allowed per row, per field, per column?
So now if you had Ruby syntax, then you could just set it, oh, we start here, we end here.
Yep,
or whatever.
but they're discussing now what will be valid BD in CSV. So can you?
But it's necessary, huh?
Why?
Because you know that that is going to be, and
That's all the fault of people like him.
yeah, for example,
It's your fault.
he might have some data in the same CSV file as my data, and
But you might reverse it before you export it to CSV. Or
what if
whatever.
there's
But
punctuation in that?
the problem is that currently you cannot tell is it per row, per column, per field, per block, per whatever. How valid is BD? And if a line is BD, do you have to reverse the columns?
It should be per delimiter set, at least.
Yeah, and that's awful. Because if the BD starts halfway one field and ends halfway another field, and do you have to reverse that before you parse, or?
I think they're going to decide no.
Yeah, so that's really making you think, I don't want to go there. So, RFC 711, Ricardo twittered me. Huh? Oh, what? No, it was on P5P on the chat. He twittered me. There's a strange Twitter message here. And I cannot see at this Twitter message URL what's in it. So I needed to check and go there. And it was Erik Wilder who said, URI fragment identifiers for the text CSV media type. Yes, CSV, that's me. Doesn't tell me anything more, so I clicked on this link. And then you get to the RFCs. Who has ever read an RFC? Boring!
Sometimes they hide funny things in there.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes
Not
they do.
often enough.
Exactly.
You only have to read the RFCs that are dated April 1st.
Yes.
But I was really interested in this one because it's something new with CSV. What can be new with CSV? Come on. Okay. Abstract, something, yeah, why? The memo, blah, 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 blah. Introduction. This memo updates for, this is an important one. If you really want to know about CSV, read 4180. It is about selections inside a set of CSV data. So you can, they come here with an example, and if you have 20,000 rows, you only want to row 12 till 20, or 12 till 20 and 40 and 47, and that's all. Or column-based. So from this, you only want that. Or cell-based. I only want this cell and these two cells, for example.
Don't you have DBI CSV already?
I wrote that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that inside. That has a bigger disadvantage than the CSV function, because it doesn't only read the file in once. No, it reads it in once.
Okay.
So if you've got huge CSV sets, it will grow. It will explode. This is about column selection, row selection, or cell selection, or combinations of cell selections, or multiple rows, or multiple columns. And this is the only thing that is interesting out of the whole RFC. This really is it.
342 lines of blah blah blah.
Yes, thank him for that. You didn't want to see those lines of blah blah blah.
So, this one was posted at, what's the date? 17th of January this year. So then it was released with some remarks from some other people, and of course it's my fault, and not really interesting. I implemented it 2 days after that, just because I liked it. It wasn't that hard.
It's a request for comments, it's not yet a standard.
You know, sometimes there's no
Now it
difference.
is, yep, now it is. So, using the
Why did you
CSV.
wait 2 days? Why did you wait 2 days?
It was over a weekend. We slept
It took me that long to read. I read very slowly.
How hard can it be to read blah 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 blah?
No, but like 342 lines of that.
I really read slowly. I'm subscribed to a audiobook company, so I read my book from CD. I don't read my eyes. I listen.
So are you as fast as the average screen reader user? It goes blah, 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 because you can teach yourself to do that. It will work. You'll be faster.
So, we have a CSV object. You create it with new object-oriented. If you say, I only want from the IO handle or file handle or whatever, I want my specification. And the specification looks like call is 3 semicolon 8. I only want the columns 3 and 8. So, for a row, it is allowed to say 4 or 5 to 7, including 6 till the end of the line, 1 to 2, 4, and 6 till the end of the line. For columns you can do the same. And for cells you can do a single cell, which is 4,1. I only want cell 4,1. It's 1 based, so it's not cell 0, 0, no, it's 1, 1, just as spreadsheets. And then we had a huge discussion with these people, first on Twitter and then by mail. Can I use a star before the minus sign? So you can take a block, you can say 3,1 till 4,6. But the definition you saw on the RFC does not tell you that you cannot use a star on that side. It only says, somewhere in the RFC, that if you are not sure, you can return nothing. You are allowed to return nothing if you don't understand the spec.
Can we make that a general default?
Yeah, maybe they thought about it. So, this is allowed. You can say, I want to start at 3, 2, and I want to go to the end, row 2. So, row 3 till the end, only column 2. Column 2 till the end, only row 3. Strip row 1 and 2 and column 1. So I want from cell 3, 2 down to the rest. And you can combine them. There is no definition of what should happen if anything of this overlaps. So we had a huge discussion afterwards. And one of those discussions ended with Dred telling me, I'm unsure if we agree. And I think that is a bad thing.
So return nothing.
Yeah, but the specification of 7.1.1 is not detailed enough to make a decision. So
Maybe your decisions overlap.
no, they're vague. They're too vague. I had some examples, and they said, "Well, I don't know." I'll come with some examples later. So I've got some examples of if your CSV looks like this, you can say I want cell 1,1 till 2,2, so that's this block, and I want 3,3 to 4,4, which is only this cell, and so on. And you get this. What will happen? They didn't define in the RFC that all lines have to be the same. So this will be returned because you told it you want only those cells. We agreed on that. It was obvious enough. That is what you want. That is what you get.
How useful is that?
Where it can be useful is if you don't want to have the data but only markers, like I want those cells. I'll come to that later. But if you have like a spreadsheet and you want to mark some fields in there red or blue or underlined or another font or something, you want not the content of the field as a excerpt of the data, you want to have them as markers. I want to do something with those fields, for whatever reason. Overlapping specs will return the cells only once. So if you have a block that goes like this and a block that overlaps, it will return any cell that falls into any of those specifications only once. RFC 7.1.1 explicitly forbids to use cell and column or cell and row or column and row together. So, feedback. 21st of January, less than 7 days later, it was completely done and finished. And I said, well, that was quick. I like the fact that the community is returning, having feedback, being happy that something is happening with it, and they are open to comments. So it's request for comment, they get it. A lot of it. And this one. That is pretty flipping cool. Thanks again for this. So yeah, that made me even more motivated.
Did your tweet contain the word Perl in it?
Yes, you just showed
Yes.
us.
I couldn't read it. It's very tiny text for me. It's very faded. Yay.
It has a hashtag.
Oh, even better.
Web scale.
So, of course, the new function should allow that. So you can say, I want this file, the old one, and I only want that fragment, and I want to write that to a new file. So, it's not only an object method, it's also an attribute.
So, excuse me, if you have like, for example, from 1 to 2 and 3 to 4, the CSV file will have like blank places in the.
No, what you don't ask is what you don't get.
I mean, like, how will the whole thing would be formatted? Like, you want like.
Quick, go back one slide, 2 slides maybe. No, yeah. See that thing 11, 12, 14, 21, 22.
This is the return set, so these have more fields than these.
One call to the next.
And that's accepted, like by the.
Yeah. I won't show you my mails, but I had mails with matrices like that. And what do we do with gaps in it?
Okay, so even like if it's out older, you return it out older as well. You would want, for example, older cells. Like if you get 3, 4, 4, and then 1, 1, 2, 2, you return them like this.
They are in the order of the CSV, not in the order of the specification.
So you're going to get 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1.
It's selection criteria, it's not the order. So if you specify this order the wrong way around, you still get this set.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't get the blanks of the second bit. It's going to be pushed to the left, probably.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
You don't get you cannot make a checker board with that.
Yeah.
I want to check the word.
It's just a text CSV.
What's the next one?
That's the new
Oh, yeah,
thing.
callbacks. Then I talked to Abe about this, and he said, well, if I have CSV data that has codes in there that refer to something in a database that can give me a value based on that code, could I write that in that new function? No, you cannot yet. Say, we have a CSV file that has a date, an ID or a number, a description, location, a country, and a date in a different format.
End date.
Hmm?
End date, I think.
That's
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
interpret it. Maybe it's the count of commas in the file.
Number of attendees.
And you want an index and a date and an event and a city with the country code in between parents. And I'm not interested in this field and I'm not interested in that field. How would you do that? Using the old way. I'm writing a new object, I'm using the blah 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 blah. I read the file and I print to the output an ID, a date, event, city. That's my header. Then while I'll get line from this, I say if row 4 is filled, that is this one. Then I put that content in line, in row 3 at the end. And then I printed the record number. Did everybody know that this is present since a few versions? A line number is not a record number. If it has embedded new lines, the $dot in Perl is not reliable anymore. So we have the $CSV record number. It will know how many records you've parsed. So what you print is an anonymous list, as you normally do in the print method. You print a record number and you print only rows 0, 3, 2 and 3. So you print this, and the modified that one. modified over here. And then we get that. Right. Does it look nice?
Lady Alina would just cry.
Don't encourage.
No, that's too difficult. We won't do that. We write a parser that reads the CSV, writes it to a text, then uses regular.
This is recorded. Is she gonna watch that? Maybe, you never know.
Yeah.
This is the same
Here,
input.
here on Marijn, you know? It's here on text.
It's the same input. But now I want to write it using CSV. So my CSV is in, I have that file. Callbacks, after parse, write this, come back to that. I only want fragment 1. And I write it with the output to stand up. And there's your answer. Who asked what headers? Look, you can define your own headers. Yay.
Yeah. It was more like if you give an array of hashes. Well, you were teaching him.
Yeah.
And how you keep your, because you cannot keep
If
your.
you use the array of hashes as a source for writing, how do you know the order of the columns?
And the order is undefined. So the order is the headers is the return of keys on the first hash ref.
Yeah, okay.
So if you want to change that order, like
You have to
sorted or
specify
whatever,
the header.
then you have to specify it
Let's keep
yourself.
recreating one until we get the right order, then we can use that.
What? Again?
You recreate an hash every time and until you get to the right
Although,
order of the keys,
although,
then you can pass that
Now
one.
how do I know if it's the right order?
you wait till the end of the universe and then you
Yeah.
probably got it by then.
I think you need pseudo hashes.
Where's my towel?
You can do that. It might be supported, I don't know. So I want a callback that modifies the data, and then I write the file with the columns I want. The first 2 columns and the 4 and 5 columns, and I want other headers. This already looks much more appealing than that for while loop. Oh, that while loop.
That's okay formatting. If you could format the other one nice as well.
It's also nicely formatted in what it should do.
She wants more tabs.
Yes,
Ah,
I love that.
More tabs.
there's a few callbacks. One of them is, which I think is the most brilliant one, is the error callback. The most tickets I got on RT is, I've got that error and I want to ignore it. Yeah, and if you've ignored it, you have no idea where you are in your CSV, so you cannot go on. Yeah, but I still want to ignore it and go on, wherever I am. So what I wrote was an error callback, so you can pass the error callback like this in the new as an attribute, or you can put it in later. And what you get past then is, in the error callback, the handle and the location of the error. So you can say, if this error is 2023, I want to ignore it. And you can reset, using the handle, the error to 0, and just continue as if nothing happened. And catch the next error. But you can do weird things. But that solved all those tickets. Now you can do it. It's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility anymore. After parse is, if you parse, it reads byte by byte CSV. It's a state machine. It doesn't read a whole line and then starts regular expressions. No, it reads byte by byte and it knows what the state of the current byte is. Is it the start of a field? Do I already have a field? Is the field I'm reading quoted? Does it have binary? Is it valid Unicode? Whatever. So it knows a lot. What you get after the parse, so the parse already done it, so it must be valid CSV, you get a row, a list ref, an array ref, and you get the parser, so you can do strange things with the object itself. What you could do here is modify the end of line character for the next row. Don't, but you could. So the row is you've just parsed it, and you get a array ref back. So you can look at it and end the previous row with the content of this one. this is the same line as in the previous example. But you can also unshift the record number. After this, the row is returned. So this is a valid callback also in the object-oriented set. This is done from XS level. It's cached, it has XS bits set, so this is fast, but it will slow down your parsing because these are all Perl level calls. So for every row parsed, it will call this callback, even if you don't do anything with it. So it's a guarantee to slow down your parsing. But it still works. After this, you've got different data than what you parsed. So you parse something, you change it, and that will be returned. And from that what will be returned, you take the fragment. Clear?
Could you use signatures in that situation? In this sub?
I have no
parse?
idea. We don't know. But this solved Abe's problem because now you can here say, I want row 4 to be the content from a function somewhere in the module that returns me from the code the description. Come back to that. So, we've got a CSV file with things that have been sold. So we have got a transaction ID, and we have got a quantity, and we've got a product. You don't want to get an invoice saying you bought 4 items of T13. Yeah, right. What is it? I also bought 4 items of something else, but I have no idea what it is. So let's call this purchases.csv, and I don't want to look at the headers. So I want to skip it. So there is a header in there, I don't want to have it. Put the output to standard out. I don't have to put a backslash in there. I want these to be the new headers. Transaction ID, I want to make that TID. Quantity is the same. Product is the same, but now it will have the description of the product. And the price is known in the database, so it knows the price, the product A3. And it will make total the price times the quantity. And how do you do that? In the after parse, you push the get description and price for the first item in the row. So you pop this thing of every row, you pass that to the get price, and you push that to the row. Pro magic. You can also write it out. I have a parser, so $_1 is the row reference, the array reference. I didn't want to write because that will take more lines and more lines. So this is, I can show you how the code looks because this can be in another module. This can be on another machine. You can do a socket call, whatever.
Now with the headers, it's stupid. It only knows that headers is just the first row, but it has no way of really telling. See, you can't, if you tell it skip, and you're just feeding a bunch of stuff in there, then you might just lose your first row if it doesn't really have a header.
Examples to show what you can do with it.
Yeah, skip can't detect anything. It just says, okay, first row, gone.
So, that was awful. This doesn't read fine. I don't like that. This is much better. I've got my function back again. So I'm now merging the callbacks into the function. I've got an in file, which is the return of another. So I now use the headers for quantity and transaction. And I get desk and price calling the hashref. Because I use headers auto, it's now a hashref, and I can pass the hashref to this function. This function can now look at the first argument, arrow product. It can look at arrow quantity, and it can look at arrow transaction if it needs to. out is standard out, and the headers is now the same. Appealing, I think.
But this is a different get text and price from the other one.
Yes, this is based on a href, and the other was
okay.
based on knowledge. Exactly what Stommelpoes said. It based on knowledge is something else than based on dwimery.
So that's just, so he gets internally an href, right?
Yes?
And when he tries to write it, so that's the, how does it walk into the href?
Well, keys,
By the
It's
header?
a href, so you can do, if I can show you later on I can show you that function.
No, not that function. That function is fine. Outside, you get an href, and now you try to write it without. And what's the order of the elements in the href?
header.
A href doesn't have an order, it has keys.
Right, but you need to write to the sorry.
Using the
No,
header.
you pass
What's
the
the order?
reference.
Yes, and what's the order of the keys?
The
Who
header.
cares?
You're just getting values.
Well, you're writing to a CSV file, so the order that you write matters.
No, this
The
is
order is in the
all
header.
in. So
Header's key.
you're twiddling with a href. It's not written yet.
Okay, but the output, so
That comes later. The output goes to standard out, and the headers are these. And then it looks inside the hash to
okay.
see.
The callback is called for every line, not
Yeah.
for the entire file.
So this
No, that's
callback is adding these keys.
So it uses the header to get the data from the hash.
Yeah.
The order from the hash. Okay.
Get data from the hash of the order specified in the headers.
So this function will look at this href, arrow product, fetches the data from the database, then fetches the quantity, multiplies the price it got from the database with the quantity, and create a new hash key with price. And it will create a new hash key with total. And it will replace the key product with the description.
Oh, you got it.
And a light bulb.
Every push
Yeah,
pin.
that's
What kind of
wrong.
order is that?
Well, teddy bear scared of the dark, light bulb scared of the dark. I don't know what the first one
It's
is
light
for.
bulb.
The voodoo doll.
So, dumping a database table. You can do DBH, connect something, MySQL, Postgres, CSV, DBD CSV. Of course you can connect to a CSV database and dump it as CSV. I don't know if that's useful. Yeah.
But does that really apply to any object that has a fetch from array ref?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So you have to prepare, using your own loop you can do this as I showed you. This is a kind of summary. But you can also use the function output and in select all array ref. Or bind hrefs. Because CSV will recognize if you put hrefs or CSV refs. It will then look at the first row, what keys are there, in the order the keys returns them, so it's not fixed. Of course you can say here headers and then your own set of keys, which makes an excerpt from the table, if you want only columns 3, 4, 5, whatever. That's this part. So we can do more questions, we can do code, we can do stop, beer.
Can you go back one slide? So that's the bit that I was looking for in the beginning. So basically there you have streaming. So it's going to continue fetching from in until it returns empty or a false value.
Okay, sorry, you didn't see this one. This is your fault.
You don't know how many times I hear that line.
There's people here that have fault. You suggested, what will it do on a code ref?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, as long as the code ref returns a valid result, it will go on and fetching the code ref. So this one, and that's answering your question, has nothing to do with internal memory. You can this call is dumping a complete database table in streaming mode.
And could you?
But if you really are interested in performance, you should use fetch row array ref.
No,
Yeah.
fetch is an alias for fetch row array ref.
Can
And
you?
Morgan,
Not
sorry,
always.
steps ahead,
Always.
everyone.
No, there are modules that actually will make fetch.
Do you have?
And they overrule it, but that's their fault.
Yeah.
Do you have?
There is one point when you can even do faster than this, is not using the fetch, but call it as a, you can make you can get the code ref from it and call it as a function instead of an object call. That is so tiny difference that I would not recommend you doing it so. But this is Sawyer's fault.
Can you have like do you have a shortcut for out as a code ref as well?
No, because I did not see yet any use in there.
Well, the other way around, like instead of if you go back, like you have the callback after parse, blah 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 blah. If you had a code ref in the out, you could do that automatically. So
Yeah, and then what after that?
well, then I read the file and I did stuff. So basically, it would be some sort
but
of shortcut
the
for your after parse.
So then you have the callback, so you can do that in a callback. Why-
Yeah,
why-
but that's shorter. If I want to read from a file, I can say, "Oh, read from these." Well, I would say that is sort of.
Well, which I have been thinking about it, and I did not see a legal valid use for out to be a sub.
It's
Because-
shorter. It's shorter. Like
Yeah.
you have in a file, a CSV file, you parse that, and then once you parse that, you could say, okay, if you have or out or a direct callback to after parse, so it can do stuff directly.
Then you don't use an out, or you make that a nil, and use the in-out callback, and you have that already.
Okay, so in out also accepts
In-out
the
is
ref.
between in and out.
Okay.
So it's like after parse, before
Okay.
print.
That would be great. So add that to your samples thing, because that's useful. Like that would be that would be the faster way to parse something and then
Ignore
get your shit going.
For Yaxi.
Just an extra example. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I don't know
Impress your
yet.
audience with extra examples.
Oh, live demo.
Of what?
Of
This.
some ginormous fucking CSV file with 1,000 problems, and have it running in a terminal and show people how it. Okay, look here's stuff's valid. So because first thing you introduced is okay, I take all the shitty shit and I make it valid, like no matter what. And then you show an example of like the Lady Alina version of the code.
With your
And see how this is difficult, and then you show another version with your cleanup version, and look at this, and I have this callback to something stupid with this thing. So you were showing your two tables, you could just show it, spitting it out, because people love live demos, right? Because Damien says never do a live demo.
This was too fast for me to
But it's
make.
really.
It is recorded, so.
I don't think anyone's gonna spot that from the recording.
Not me.
It was too fast. You can undo.
It's too many. It's my sandbox. So there's for every problematic ticket, I write a separate file with.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's. I don't know if that's.
Byte mark.
The byte
That
mark, yeah.
might be a Bart watermark, but it might be something else. So I have to look at this file and.
What's the value of bytes?
Show it in hex.
No, just run it through an old version of Firefox. You see the little upside down question mark and the two little caret thingies, and then you'll know it's the byte watermark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Start
this
with,
is about wrong
Yeah, that's true.
encodings, indeed.
Actual
So I can.
byte, because we actually look for it in bytes. Is it? But you could look for it if you could get something that would output all of them, because everybody had that trouble with Word, because Word would default to, if the Swedish people, they have Word, it would default to some version of
got
That's
several
what I
flags
think.
for checking what will happen. And you see that this one goes right, this one goes right, this one goes right, and here the first line is ignored. So something got lost. And that was probably his motivation to file the ticket. Things getting lost. Is that also 4? And that goes, get line read first line, get line with explicit open. And so probably everything is fixed now. Already.
You thought about writing it as a normal fucking test?
All those, no.
Just a,
Of course, they go into a test file for RT only. And
what was that number? 20,000 in the beginning? Number of tests? Yeah.
You will more.
Mallory, ginormous. There you go.
Yeah. That'd be number.
That's not
some are generated.
You haven't seen the
tests.
Pro test week, then.
But I've got, at the end I've got the first line that says, this is my RT ticket, and this is the description, and then this is the input, and I expect something else. So this is a tab separated file with very special thorn characters that do something
Runes.
different. Probably.
Thorns!
Thorns,
Actual thorns!
Yes. The tab character is the separation, and the thorn was used as a quotation character, and that went wrong because it was 8-bit or something. Unusual quote set combination value. So
I don't know.
Who thinks up this shit?
This is the XS module. Makamaka is trying to keep up with me, but he's a bit back now for text CSV, which is a wrapper module for CSV XS and CSV PP, which is pure Perl. And sometimes people find problems that they get different, inconsistent, but it's just copy paste. So probably the ticket is also wrong. That there's different results from XS and PP, and that should not happen. So I firstly try to examine: is it his fault? Is it my fault? What is documented? What should it do? And you see there's some weird stuff here and
There you
some
go.
weird stuff here.
That's your favorite show. You get to show that. And you see the bomb representation when the browser's looking at it. Everyone else does that.
Where's the unicorn?
What was the number I just showed?
20,000.
I don't remember anymore.
This is
There were people going to these tests that they would tell people to run the word to see if you can get that character yourself, to see if they have the bomb or something.
There's no test in here for that. It's probably it proved to be the same as some other ticket that was fixed.
Just add it. If it's in there in the native settings. Well, people shouldn't be writing web pages in Word, but people do that. So, but people do, and Notepad would do it too, because its defaults were not Unicode code.
Yes.
It would have bomb as a default.
One of the tests here is dynamic, which proved to be a bug in Perl core itself. That multi-byte characters longer than 2 bytes can be split halfway during a read in Perl itself. So I had to safeguard, because I read bytes, I don't read characters, and Perl didn't know what it was. So the buffer was cut halfway, and I got the last byte of the character in the next block. So one of the tests here is using different sizes of blocks to test if they all passed it, because there was a bug in Perl core itself, and I could work around that. When I took over, there were 123 tests. I've got a few more now.
In the first file. It was a bit more than this.
Pretty graphs.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit.
Web scale? No?
It doesn't fit.
No, because there's no gradients, so it's not web scale, but it's getting there.
Use geometry in the display.
It's definitely not web scale.
Oh my god. Or web goes to the high. Time sheet.
Hey, your best Friday was gone.
What's that?
That famously horrible hideous website of the
Hey.
Friday. I went looking for it. It was gone. It was like one of the most hideous.
This is
sites.
a very old talk, so the numbers are probably not quite as accurate anymore. This was using with 516 test, difference between XS and PP. This is the number of records you read. So if you've got only 2 columns, the difference is not that much between Perl, pure Perl or XS. The longer the records, the faster XS gets. This is fast, this is slow, it's time consuming, and it doesn't matter a whole lot if you've got multiple records or not. So PP gets slower. Why it's so fast over here, I don't know.
There's some block effect.
If you only look at XS, then the difference is bigger. So you can use XS with a get line or a bind column, or you can, this is pure Perl split. This is get line, this is bind column, and this is. So the bind column is. I implemented bind columns in CSV. So you can get line without any arguments. It will return nothing because it will read into the references you passed.
The still need a file handle?
You still need the file handle, yes, of course. I thought I had more. Code? Stop?
Well, the time log is supposed to be thrown out here.
Whenever we want.
Okay.
I don't know what people.
I don't know how much I can hear.
If you're playing the button.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. I like the things.
This directory contains every CSV module ever released, so I can make differences between Perl versions and so this is run with only one version of Perl, and it has all the versions ever released of CSV access. And then it will show you where it went wrong. So I took over here, then I made an error here because it slowed down. This speed gain is until here, every field was kept twice in the parser. One for if it was unquoted and one for if it were quoted. I saw no reason for that, so I merged them into one field, and that gave me a huge gain. This is a gain in print because I removed some buffering. So we can. I run this quite often. This was a bug in Perl itself again, which I had to fix. There's only one version of Perl where that showed.
Sounds painful and quite dangerous.
see here is the same XS version for different versions of Perl, which version goes faster. And you see that it goes up. I didn't run 20 yet, so I will add it before Sophie. Probably.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you.